Welcome to r/Entitled People, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story: Karma turned her A on this entitled woman. The second story: abandonment of post and leaving the vehicle insecure, then having it stolen. Dude, his lucky transfer was all he got. The third story: it's always cheaper to invest in retaining your trained staff than having to replace all of them. The first story is: she's entitled and dumb too. Got herself fined $500. So, a little bit of backstory. I've lived in my house for quite a while, and we live in a pretty rich neighborhood with a lot of wealthy families. It's actually all just rich people, some of which are very well off. My family is fairly well off as well, but my parents both work very hard. This kinda ties to the story. EM equals entitled mother. EC equals entitled child. So my house sits right next to a storm pond. It's pretty large and it freezes over in the winter. I grew up playing hockey and I was very good. The best around at that time, though everyone else caught up in due time. One year my dad decided to see if the ice was thick enough to skate on, and sure enough it was. That year, my dad ended up shoveling an entire hockey rink-sized portion of the pond so that me and friends that lived in my neighborhood could play some hockey. One day, we looked out to see some older kids playing hockey, and we realized our pond had become a neighborhood thing where kids and even adults would come out to play. My dad loved the fact that we could help put the neighborhood and see that his rink was allowing people from our neighborhood to come together, hang out, and get to know each other. My dad ended up pooling some money to get huge lights that illuminated the entire rink so you could play even at night. I loved to go and play some hockey, and I soon realized that one other kid was out there all the time. He was around my age and very good, as I was at the time. We played together every chance we got. He was very nice and polite, and I soon learned he was staying with his aunt, EM, and his cousin, EC. One day my dad put out a sign that the rink was reserved for the day because we were hosting a party for my team, and we wanted to have the rink, as we already had around 20 kids playing, and more than that would just get crowded, along with the fact that a lot of the regulars were older, hence better. Cue EM. EM pulls up onto the road. The ice rink is clearly in full view from the road, and she sees 20 plus kids all in the same uniform playing hockey. She proceeds to walk up and read the sign my dad left. This still doesn't stop her. EM drags her kid to the rink and begins to tie his skates, when my dad walked over to explain the rink was reserved. This incident was a long time ago, so I don't remember the conversation as well, but I'll stick to the main points. Dad: hi EM, my son's team is having their team party here today, so we reserved the rink for his team exclusively. EM apparently cuts out half of what my dad said and proceeds to blurt out something similar too. Oh perfect, EC can just play with them for the afternoon. By now she had finished tying her son's skates and begins to walk away. Apparently she was just going to use us as a daycare, as she just lived down the street. Dad: no EM, you need to take EC with you. There's already too many kids, and we aren't babysitting your child. EM: just look after him for a few hours. I want to go home. Dad: take him with you. He won't be playing with us. This seems harsh, but EM already had a reputation of dumping EC on other families at the rink, and EC was known for being overly rough when playing and just plain rude. He also wasn't the best, and regularly got mad when someone was better than him. EM continues to walk away and get in her car. Dad: what a bee. We allow EC to play with our team until one of the better players on my team dekes around him like it's nothing and scores. EC follows him down the ice only to swing his stick into the side of my teammate's leg. Dad: EC, what the F are you doing? My teammate is crying, obviously. EC says nothing and begins to cry. My dad makes him sit out to the side until his mom comes back to get him, while still keeping watch and making sure he's okay. EM returns shortly thereafter, only to see her son crying off to the side. This obviously didn't slide with her. EM: what the hell are you doing? Dad already knows what she's going to say, so he blurts out, we told you your son wasn't welcome, yet you still dumped him on us anyway. And after we allowed him to play, he injured one of my players who had to leave to go get fiberglass from your son's stick out of his leg. EM has no response and packs up her crying child and leaves without another word. The story doesn't even end here, it gets even worse. The rink only got more and more popular, and people from other neighborhoods would come to play on it. And one year my dad made 22-meter high wooden boards to surround the rink. We went all out. Until finally one winter it never got cold enough for the rink to freeze, and the same happened for the next couple years. Until this winter. The rink finally froze over the week I'm posting this, and me and my friend just shoveled out a small playing area, as it was just us two. We played on the rink for a few days until today when EM drove past. I forgot to mention my house is in the only road into our neighborhood, so to get in you have to pass. Me and my friends saw as EM pulled up to the curb and began to stalk toward us. EM, will you be continuing the hockey rink this year? Me, I guess I'm just doing this pretty much, pointing out the small shoveled portion. EM, why only this? Me, my dad currently isn't home and I don't have the time or know how to continue what my dad has done previously, and I also had exams coming soon. EM, well you should, we deserve it. What now? Me, excuse me? EM, you did it previously and you owe us it now since we haven't been able to use it for the past few years. Me, we did that as a project to pass the time. We don't have that kick spare time now and I'm not going to do all that work because the temperature is supposed to rise to 5 degrees the next day. Yes, I'm in Canada. EM, still EC could use the rink tonight. Make sure you have a bit done. I'll bring him over soon. Me, I'm not doing SH. EM, excuse me? You better. EC deserves to use the rink and this ain't good enough for him. Me, getting annoyed and also cold at this point. I don't care about EC. He can do it himself if he wants. EM, do it. By the time I get back or else I'll call someone. Me, go ahead. A few years ago, the city puts up signs saying that the pond was a hazard, fearing that someone could fall through, and they couldn't get sued. They put a number to call if someone was skating on the rink. EM left but returned about 30 minutes later with her brat of a son, who had earned a reputation of being an all-around jerk, and still not a good player. My friend was AAA player, and for all you non-hockey fans, that's basically the best you can get for minor leagues. EM, what the F, you haven't moved? I just start to ignore her at this point. EM, fine, see if I care. She goes back to sit in her car and begins talking to someone on the phone, while glaring at me and my friend. I didn't know at the time, but she was on the phone with the city telling them people were skating on the pond. She then tells us that we were in trouble because we called the city. Me and my friend didn't care, as we had been out there for a while as it was, and we were cold, so we left and went back inside. EM sat and watched EC for a while until a white car with the city's logo on it pulls up. EM turns around as the man gets out and tells him, EM, I called, it's okay though now the kids are gone. Man, ma'am, who's skating right now then? EM, oh that's just EC, my son. Man, lady, I'm gonna have to give you a fine for misusing city property. EM, what? We didn't do anything. The other brats are gone now. Man, ma'am, you just told me that's your son out there right now. I heard this all from the comfort of my living room, and could surprisingly hear it all as she was very loud. He hands her a fine, I don't know for how much, but the sign says minimum $500. She basically played herself. The second story is, lost a coworker and ruined someone else's Christmas. Cast, Soup equals branch supervisor. MC equals missing coworker. AD equals angry dad, and OP equals me. This is a short story from when I first started in the business, and this is from the time I was posted on Christmas Day at a Walton Superstore. Since it was so long ago, the dialogue's a little fuzzy, but I'll do my best to recall it all. I was a floater in my company. You know the type of job. Soup, I know it's 1 a.m., but how soon can you get to a post 30 miles south of you? And can you cover until 1 p.m.? Around this time 12 years ago, I got a call from the branch office. Soup, OP, I have a 12-hour shift on Christmas at Wally World Superstore. Are you up for some holiday pay? OP, sure, what's the SOP? Soup, meet MC at site between 5:45 and 5:50. Get the patrol vehicle keys, sit in the patrol vehicle and drive behind the building once an hour. Also, this is the one time that Wally World is closed. They close at 1800 on the 24th and reopen at 600 on the 26th. So be sure to pack a lunch and call if you need relief to use the restroom. OP, sure, no problem. The next morning at 5:40 I arrive. I hate being late. And when I arrive, there are 6 cars in the lot counting the locked patrol vehicle. MC was missing, hence his name. I call Soup and informed him and he started calling MC. Eventually he called another SO assigned to that post, who told him that MC was routinely leaving the key inside the gas flap instead of turning the key in at customer service. This by itself is dangerous because this truck is left alone in the parking lot from 600 to 1800 normally. I open the gas flap and there nestled next to the gas cap is the truck key. Soup, when he shows up tell him to call me, as he's not answering his phone, and if he's not there by 1800, call me and I'll have someone there by 2200 at the latest. It's now 6:15 and I'm told I might be getting 16 hours of holiday pay. I'm in the truck about 15 minutes doing the initial paperwork, when someone pulls up, parks and walks up to the doors, only for them to not open. He then walks over to me. AD, when's the store opening? I need to get presents. OP, I'm sorry, they'll not be opening until 600 tomorrow. AD, what? I need to get presents. OP, I'm sorry sir, but that's impossible today. AD, what will my kids do when they get up and there's not presents under the tree? This was longer and expletive-laden. OP, thinking maybe do Christmas shopping before Christmas. He then goes back to his car only to drive by with his window down saying, AD, more expletives. I want you to know you ruined my kid's Christmas. The rest of the day went a little more pleasantly, and at 17:57 MC shows up, sees me in the truck and goes on a rant. MC, this is my post. You ain't taking my hours. I'll call Branch. OP, I'm not taking your hours. I've been here for 12. Here's the key. Oh, by the way, I was told to tell you to call Soup. He wants to talk to you. I then walk away and call Soup myself. I later heard that the CCTV cameras were checked and MC left at midnight Christmas morning, and he was written up. He also continued to leave the key under the gas flap too, until the truck was stolen, at which point MC was transferred to guard a dirt pile about 50 miles from his home. And the last story is, sabotage my review, my entire department quit. I formerly worked for a website. The job was fun and the perks were nice, but the pay was abysmal. Max starting salary of $30K for staff. My department was me, one other person on my level, and a producer shared between our sites, all reporting to our manager. About 4 years in, I've had it. Our producer left about 6 months prior for more money elsewhere. With no pay raises during COVID and a deferred review, I finally asked for a raise to compensate for cost of living. It would be enough to put me over the federal minimum salary to no longer qualify for overtime pay, which would mean I could actually work more hours for free. I lay out for them how this will save them money and pay for itself immediately. They respond by giving me the worst review of my life, faulting me for leaving early and taking leave on short notice. I had COVID, and telling me I can't get credit this year for all of last year's accomplishments. That went unreviewed, but they gave me $48 a week more. Cue overdrive mode on the job search. I land a new job doing substantially less work, and only the parts that I love, with significantly less stress at more than twice the salary. I put in my 2 weeks and I have nothing but praise for my coworkers in my exit interview, while eviscerating upper management's wasteful spending. I gave HR specific notes and receipts, which was great since HR had actually quit a few weeks earlier, after less than 6 months, and my exit interview was done with our comptroller. I collect my last check and punch out for a nice week off between jobs. Then our new producer, fresh grad on the job about 6 months, texts me if 2 weeks notice means 14 days or 10 business days, but they took an offer too. Ironically, they hire a new producer before filling my role. A week later, my counterpart also quits. They finally replace me, but lo and behold, that person quits in less than 4 weeks for a better offer. I've recently learned that for 1 to 2 weeks, our old boss was the only person running 4 websites for about a half a dozen publications, and at least as many social media channels, while simultaneously trying to fill said roles. To add icing to the cake, they're still trying to replace me because after less than 3 months on the job, they just fired the most recent hire for underperforming. I know this because LinkedIn asked me to help my old boss by resharing the open job listing 2 days before they fired the guy. I knew he was out of a job before he did. For what it's worth, I told them on my way out that my final salary needed to be the new starting salary or they'd never find anyone remotely qualified. After 2 failed attempts in less than 6 months and I don't know how many tens of thousands wasted in hiring, training, and such, at least the new post has that salary listed. Thanks for watching, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.